All right, we want to deal with the question of how do you build a homeschool transcript? Not a question we get as much as we used to. It depends on where you are in your homeschool journey, but certainly once you've graduated one student, this gets easier. But still, we do get questions. People ask a lot of questions about, excuse me, Luna's contributing. People ask a lot of questions about how do you do this? How do you position your courses to help my student get into the next activity? Would be, I mean, transcripts sound like a school thing, right? They sound like a public or a private school issue, and but hey, we're in homeschool, and so the transcript, what we are trying to do is as much like a resume. We're trying to tell a story about the content that our students have been involved in and what our students have learned. So here's what you want to do for a transcript is number one, don't overthink it. I know you can go pay money, you can download transcript templates, you can there's all kinds of things, but it's simple. As a matter of fact, at the end of this, we will have a simple template, very much what we have used for all four of our children and what a lot of friends use, whether they're going to college or a job or whatever they are doing. It works. And so, what we see at the university side is we see transcripts also, and it's apples and oranges, right? So you just really want to tell the story, and we'll talk about some basic things you need to include. So, first of all, think about a Word document or a Excel file or something simple. It needs to include your student's name, date of birth, year graduated, because obviously they're going to be graduated by the time somebody sees this. So what you want to do is then have multiple lines on this and include things like the course name, the date it was completed, the grade, and the credit. Now the credit, for if it's a half a year course or something, it's considered a half a credit, or if it's a full year course, it's a full credit. And obviously, we have to remember that you are the one leading the course. You're the teacher. You're the advisor. You're all of these things wrapped in one. You get to decide how this happens. A common question we have when recording things like this is if your student is not I was going to say typical. It's a bad word. If your student did not do, hey, algebra in the ninth grade, geometry in the 10th grade, and so on and so forth, and follow the plan that you see in the normal K through 12 systems, how do you do that? Because many people, they're taking algebra way early, even before the high school years, and they may be taking courses. They may take 2 years to do something like algebra. So we have these different kind of systems. What they care about, what the university cares about, if you're looking at a university, is that here's your high school credits, right? And your cover school, your state probably has requirements. They need so many math, they need so many English, whatever their requirements are. They don't, unless they specify, those courses do not have to be taken in the 4 years they were in school or they were in high school. They could be taken before. Like a student who's advanced might take algebra way early. They may even take geometry before their high school years, and they may spend their high school years doing other things like interning or working or doing some other kind of course credits. But you still can count those on the 4 year transcript because it's still courses that they have had. But for most of us, it's going to be the date completed. And if you need to just say the date you've recorded, whatever makes sense here. The and again, we're not looking for fancy. We're just to tell the story. So generally, if we take a Word document or an Excel document, or just, if you're handwriting this in a sheet of paper, you would oftentimes group these by subject. And don't be fancy. Don't get super fancy about your titles of things. Call math math. Call science science. Don't get creative here, because anybody else looking at it is not going to know what you need. The whole reason of doing a transcript is so somebody else can look at it and understand what you are saying. It's like a resume. You want it to be readable and somebody to look at it and understand, oh, this is what they mean and this is their background and what this is what they have had. So for most of us, and most of your cover school state requirements or college entrance requirements, and you kind of look at all of these things together, right? If your state slash cover school requires 3 math credits and your university where you are going really wants the fourth, add a fourth. Right? So go for the kind of highest common. Go for the biggest challenge here that you need to represent. So under math is obviously the algebra, the geometry, the pre-calculus, the calculus. If there's a pre-algebra there, if there's a statistics or anything else that's math. If you did something creative, like we used studies in math related to equine horse activities, because my student is into horses and we wanted to do some kind of creative life study, if you will, or unit study, then name it. Name it something like mathematics applied in, blank. And then it's more of an applied course. So that one would be, but again, that one would be a weird name, but just in the title, the best you can say what it is so people can look at it and say, oh, I understand that. So you want to group them by subject. Again, math, group all your maths together. It's usually 3 or 4 courses. Your science, again, it's usually 3 or 4 courses. And your English, whatever courses for English and language and history. And then electives. And elective is where you can get really creative, but also say what it is, but don't get too fancy. You want the reader to be able to tell what you did without having to call you or get you to explain it. Something many people will do is if you are doing something unique, like an internship, or we did a course. My student, or if your student, I'm saying, did a course on YouTube video editing or a business startup. You might add, a footnote or a note here that business startup, put a footnote, and add a second page to it that describes what you do. For the university, we'd often call this a syllabus. Here was the amount of content of the work. Here's when it started. Here's when it ended. I wouldn't do that unless you just felt like that just absolutely needs to be done, because people think about a transcript as a 1 page, and sometimes you're better off saying less. Now, practically speaking, once you get all that and once you get that recorded, for all of us who have students graduate, there's this period in time that you record their transcript, you get it, pull it together, you get with your cover school, you submit the transcript, and you submit it to any other people that you have to submit it to, and then you submit it to the universities or the jobs or the trade schools or wherever you need to. Jobs usually don't care so much about these things, but trade schools and universities, they definitely do. But what happens if you're like the rest of us? You haven't kept great track of all these things, and you think you've got it in your head, and then you get to the end of the 4 years, and you're like, what did we do that year? We did something with insects and math. I don't remember what it was. So it's a great idea to just keep a running total of things. So again, this is where people that use Excel or use Word, or I know people that do this with their iPhone, and they take pictures of things and they categorize them in their photos of what they did, because there's the snapshot, there is the date, and so lots of things there. But you want to keep track of things like what courses did they do, what books did they read, and that's where I've seen a lot of people just take a picture of the book cover and said books read, put it in a books read folder. Projects that they did, any job experience they did. Hey, they worked for Chick-fil-A from this time to this time. Any certifications, they took a CPR course, they did some software training, they did these courses. And all that, when you come to the end of this time to record the transcript, you're going to forget all these things. You're like, when did that happen? I know, I've seen it many times happened before when you think, I know all this, but now I'm chasing down the details. I know we have to do this. Like I'm a licensed professional engineer, so every so many years we have to do continuing education, and we'll do continuing education, and we have to write down what we did, and I forget. Right, I have no record of it, no recollection of it, and I would have to chase back through. So once we do activities, we put them in an Excel file so we can just grab it when we need it, because we know we will need it. You know you're going to need a transcript. You know you're going to need to document things like what courses did they take, when did they take it, what textbooks did they use, is something else that you might want to include, not so much in the transcript, but just for your own record. What grade did they make, and what books did they read. That turned out to be a very big thing for us in some things. Any projects, special projects that they did, super great to remember. And again, take pictures of this stuff as it goes along. Book covers, projects that they do. Take a picture of the book that they're taking a course out of. Pictures are a wonderful tool for going back and saying, oh yeah, that's what that was. All right, so now the main thing, don't overthink this. The template we're going to show you, the transcript template that we're going to show you down here below, is very simple, and you use it. You can find many others. You can pay for some, but they're not really necessary. Many of you will have cover schools that will use software you have to log into, and you have to log this stuff inside their software, which will then print it out for you as an official transcript. So however that works, but it's up to you to have the data. So, all right, so one other thing that you've got to think about is customizing your transcript for the goal. Now, if your cover school or state or something has an official thing to log it and you print it out, then you probably want to think through this ahead of time. And this is because they probably don't want you changing it, right? Once it's there, it's there. And it will also be the official transcript. So if your son or daughter is thinking about college, university work, focus on the academics. So make sure you use the titles that universities understand. Don't get fancy, because they're looking at tons of these things and they look at them very quickly. Focus on rigor. Focus on the grades. So they need the grades, when it was done, the course name, nothing fancy. But think about it from an academic point of view. And if they might go to college, that's a maybe. I would go for that because, again, it's the most challenging, or not the most challenging, it's the one you need to be documented more. They're going to look at it closer than anybody else. If they're going to do work, and you're like, this is probably where they're heading, is they want to do work. They don't want to do college right now. Now, by the way, if you do college later, after you've worked for a couple of years, transcripts usually don't matter near as much. But transcripts matter, as does the ACT matters, mostly for people coming straight out of high school. Once you get work experience, it's a different animal. But if they are going straight into work, then obviously you want your transcript just to highlight skills, work experience. That's what people say. I don't even know if I would agree with that. Use a resume, and then have a transcript. So that's my view of that. The trade school, obviously, you would emphasize any technical courses, but I think for most of us, pretend it's a college thing. Pretend they are going to be applying to college, even if they're not, and you're going to be in pretty good shape. Everything else goes in the resume, and the trade schools, oftentimes even the universities, are wanting a resume along with a transcript. Obviously, find out what they want and give them what they want to get in there. So, all right, so like I promised, you will find here down below in the video, if you're looking at this on YouTube or our website, you'll find a link to our transcript or our resources, and you can get a copy of ours to use, or as a great starting place to help you get your transcript in order. All right, that's it for tonight. We'll talk to you later.